So I'm Mary Beth Kinders. I'm from Dread Central, and I am super excited to chat with you about Val. So
I'm super excited to be here.
I feel like the vibes with the bangs and the long hair. I feel like a good vibe between the two of us.
We're twins.
So the first question I wanted to ask you is: so you're incredible as Val. She is an incredible character. What drew you to playing? Like, what drew you to this role specifically?
Well, to be perfectly honest, Aaron and I have known each other for a very, very long time. I won't age myself by saying just how long, but he and I started out by making comedy shorts together. And he would just call me up and be like, I wrote this kind of wacky thing. Do you want to be this character? And I wouldn't even read the script. And I'd be like, yeah, absolutely. Sounds like a blast. And so when he started dipping his toe in features and he would be like, oh, I want you to do this, or I want you to do this. Absolutely. I was always on board. And then came that very weird day where he called me up and said, so I wrote this feature. I need for you to be the main character. Is that cool? And you just, everything kind of freezes for a moment. And you're like, what? Really? Me? For real? Like, what?
Talking to me?
Okay. So then after, to be perfectly honest, I didn't even read the script before I said yes, because that's who I am. And I was just like, yeah, let's do it. And then when I read the script, I thought, oh my God, this is so fun. This is Mae West after she sold her soul to the devil. And how cool is that? And that speaks to me so much because that's all I ever wanted to be. So then, sometimes it's okay to say yes all the time. Not all, sometimes you should probably know more about the project. But in this case, I love Aaron to death, and I would just follow that man till the end of the world.
Yeah, and so you said Mae West sells her soul to the devil, an incredible comparison. And I wanted to know, like, who else you might have pulled from for inspiration for your performance, because it's like so good and like a little campy, a little over the top, but got a little bit of starlet in there, and it's really an incredible performance. And I'm curious, like, if there was any particular person that you pulled inspiration from in putting together your character.
Oh, well, Gloria Swanson is also a big one for me, just because Sunset Boulevard is one of my favorite films of all time. And if there is any justice in the world, I will grow up to be her someday, just living in my lonely mansion and, killing young men and throwing them in my pool. Spoiler alert, if you haven't seen the movie, you should probably see it. It's been around for a very long time. But yeah, definitely just a mixture of Mae West and Gloria Swanson and, a little bit of Marilyn Monroe in there, and just all of those starlets from back in the day that I've just always been obsessed with and never really thought that I could join those ranks because I just thought I'm too rough around the edges. That's not who I am. But you know what? Then I realized my job is to play pretend for a living. So maybe it could be me.
I love that. I could actually be me.
Right?
I also want to talk about your costumes because they are absolutely incredible. How did it feel to be on set in like this badass lingerie and these heels the entire time? Like,
oh, so two of the pieces that probably stand out the most are by Catherine Delish, and putting those on changed the way that I walked and the way that I moved immediately. Not just because I was trying so hard to not like get feathers caught indoors or on my fellow castmates, but also because you put it on immediately you're transported back to this kind of, oh, I'm a starlet and this is how I move and this is how everything fits and this is just, of course, this is my body language. And heels, to be perfectly honest, I wear them a lot. I have a very short Achilles tendon, so actually I could run for miles in heels if I wanted to.
wow.
So the heels
That's
was nothing
incredibly
new.
impressive. That is incredibly impressive.
But everything else, yeah. Oh, just I think everyone, all of you, need to at some point just like find yourself a lovely dramatic robe, just put one on, walk down a gorgeous staircase. If you don't have one, find one.
Like those robes are very much like standing on top of the staircase and like running your hand down the banister very dramatically as you descend to your guests. They're
absolutely beautiful. You can't move any other way when you're wearing
no,
it.
you have to on. No, you have to just like move, like you said, very fluidly. Did you get to keep any of the pieces?
Oh, those were actually those yours? Actually came from my closet.
Even
another
better.
One that, you know, Aaron and Victoria were like, we know you own a lot of stuff. Before we go out of our way to buy anything, since we're on a very tight budget, is there anything that you have that could work? And I was like, as a matter of fact,
I've been waiting for this moment my entire life.
Just might.
So I kind of wanted to pivot back to like the kind of beginning of your career. And you said you started off in comedy, you met Aaron through comedy. So what is it like been going from comedy into horror? I know Val is kind of a horror comedy, but what has it been like to kind of move into that space?
Well, so I also have always been a horror person. We have a company here in Los Angeles called JFI, Just Fix It. We do Creep LA. We did The Willows. We do all of these real immersive horror shows where essentially the guest gets to feel like they're in a horror film. We're not so much into the slasher stuff and, you know, the horror porn stuff. It's way more story driven and much more like, you know, Follow the House of the Usher or A House on Haunted Hill, those types of really story driven plots. And so I was always doing that, and then also doing comedy and in random everything. And, you know, everyone says this, and I think unless you live in both worlds, maybe you question it. But Jordan Peele is a perfect example. He always talks about how horror and comedy, there's always a gray area with them, because the how to make them both work is you need these extreme, these larger than life situations. So, you know, and also you might notice that if you're watching a horror movie, if you get really nervous, you might start laughing. And that's your coping mechanism. So these two worlds actually tend to cross over really, really well.
Yeah.
Most of the time. So I've always kind of felt at home in both of those places. That's where I like to live. Yeah. Making funnies and living with ghosties.
That sounds great. That sounds like my ideal state of being. Yeah, I hear that a lot too about how horror and comedy are so similar. And I always ask this because I expect the answer, but I'm always curious to hear how individual people react to it, because like there's that catharsis of laughing or jump scare. That's so cool between the two genres. And it's like, I don't think as many people think about that as much of how similar they are. Like, yeah, the subject matter might be different, but the reactions and like the plotting is so similar. It's really fascinating.
Yeah.
So I also would love to hear like how you got started acting and like what kind of like your trajectory and like how you got into the acting world and why.
My mother was a stage actress. She performed in Atlanta, Texas, New York, London. And I think for a long time, she really fought to keep me out of the arts a little bit, because she was like, oh, don't do this. Aren't you good at math? Like, can't you do anything else? But, you know, eventually we all become our parents, and that's kind of what happened. And so begrudgingly, they allowed me to go to acting conservatory. And so I went to Boston and then London Academy of Music and Dramatic Arts, and did a lot of Shakespeare for a while, and did a lot of other just way more fun period pieces. And then slowly I was like, maybe since I like movies so much, maybe I'd try that for a while. That, and to be perfectly honest, after living in Boston and London, you grow to hate weather if you're a person like me. And I was like, cool, maybe I'll do movies in LA because there's no winter there. So, you know, packed up all my stuff.
As an East Coaster, do you understand that?
Girl, like, I'm originally from the South. I am from Atlanta. So we would get like a touch of fall, or occasionally it would snow, and wouldn't that be fun? And everyone gets called off school. I didn't realize when I moved up north in the middle of a blizzard, they would still be like, yeah, can you come into work? Oh, I'm sorry, the T is shut down. That means nothing to me. I need for you to walk through the blizzard, please. Thank you. And I had enough of doing that, to be perfectly honest.
No, that's very fair. It's a lot. Especially places like where they're like, oh, it snows all the time. Like there's no choice. Like you have to do this.
Yeah, it was snowing up until I remember Easter. I was like, okay, we are ready for some spring. And it was still snowing. And I was like, why is this happening? Why does no one say no? Stop it, weather. You can't do this anymore.
So then you moved to LA, where it doesn't ever snow, which is great.
No. I miss fall. I miss that foliage. But the minute that fall's over, I'm like, at 75-degree weather, whew, we're fine. Everything's good.
I'm curious about, you said you've always been a horror person. So what were some of your favorite horror movies growing up?
I was always drawn to the classics like A Rosemary's Baby, but also I remember sneaking in to see Scream when it was in theaters, and being both terrified, but also being like, oh my God, this is it. This is genius. Matthew Lillard's gonna be my husband, and we're just gonna make horror movies forever. One of those things didn't happen, and that's fine. I'm sure he's very happy with his family, and I wish them all well. But Scream was definitely the turning point for little preteen me, where I was like, this is great. They're getting to be kind of funny, and they dress cool, and it's scary. And then after that, again, my mother was like, you're not allowed to watch those movies. But of course, you go over to your friend's house and you go to Blockbuster and you rent as many as possible so that you can just keep being exposed to it over and over and over again. And then we grow up to be these people,
I know. I think about that all the time. Just like, oh, this is who I am now as an adult.
Right.
So do you think Scream was the movie that kind of was like made you want to be in horror movies? Or did that kind of like click something in your brain?
I think so. Oddly enough. I mean, I love all of the old ghost story films and Vincent Price things, love all of that. But Scream, I think, especially because of the time, everyone was so cool. It was like, oh yeah, that's what it's going to be like. I'm going to be like that when I'm a teenager, and I'm going to dress like that, not murder people. But there was just a whole coolness about the film. And then it was funny because it was also so self-aware, which no one else was doing. And they had these really meta moments where even, young me, I was like, this is smart. This is clever. I like this. And I just kept waiting to grow out of it, and it didn't happen. So here we are.
As I say, now here you are.
Now here we are.
So what was it like working with Zachary Morin? You guys have this like really cool chemistry on like in the film, and like this cool, it's like you're innocent but also manipulating him, and it's just a really fascinating dynamic, and it really is mostly just the two of you for most of the film. So what was that dynamic like in working with him?
I love Zach. Zach is such a good actor, and he's such a sweetheart off screen. And we had met a little bit on the film that we were on before called Electric Love. And so we kind of, had like quick banter and little jokes between ourselves. But of course, when you're thrown into a movie and it's like, you're the characters, now really get to know each other. And he was super easy to get along with. And it's just a very chill human being. And I remember while we were filming, his wife was super pregnant, like about to give birth on any day. So I remember we were always just kind of like, is Zach gonna have to leave today? Is his wife gonna give birth in the minute? Like, is this gonna be all right? But everyone just being so excited for him to be a first-time dad. And so that brought everyone together. We all felt like family, being like, Zach, you're gonna be a dad, dude. And yeah, he's super easy to work with. Even there are moments where we both are starkly different as performers. He's definitely one of those people, and you can tell because his reactions are, I've never seen a actor like him before in my life. But he's absolutely, after each take, would be like, I need to see that. I need to, no, we're doing it again. We're doing it again. And I hate watching playback of myself. I know that it's going to send me into a spiral of like, oh my God, is that what I look like? Do I talk like that? Oh God, I hate this. So I can never watch playback. I always would watch Aaron's face while he was directing. And you could tell, like, if it was going well, he'd be, eh. And if it was going poorly, he'd, and so I would always go off of him and I'd be like, should we take that again? One more time? Okay, not be trash this time. Wonderful. So even those little differences between Zach and myself, I feel like it still worked out so well. And he's a good guy. He's so fun to work with. And they had the cutest baby. Spoiler alert, the cutest baby you've ever seen. So Mazel tov, you did it. You made babies.
Did his wife go into labor while you were shooting?
No, that didn't happen. Waited until he got back, and then waited, of course, during a pandemic in quarantine. So that had to be terrifying. But
we
stepped out of filming that.
When did you film? When were you guys filming?
Oh, we wrapped actually March 11th.
No way.
So
of
days
2020
before the quarantine happened. And I remember it being so funny because, you know, when you're doing shoots like this, it's mostly all night shoots. So you're sleeping during the day. We were all staying in the same mansion. And we were essentially kind of quarantined before it was hip, just with the cast and the crew. And, you know, we didn't have a television really. And, you know, occasionally people would look at the news and they'd be like, oh, I think something's happening out there, guys. Like, I don't know how serious it is, but it might be. And it wasn't until we wrapped that I called my husband to tell him I was coming home. And he said, yeah, you need to come home now because things are getting pretty serious. And I don't know how much you know about it, but you got to get home right now.
Oh my God. Where did you guys film? You weren't in LA.
We were in Ojai, actually.
Oh, okay.
A big chunk of it, just in this mansion, just in our little Val commune. We called it Camp Val.
Was it the mansion that you shot in, or was it a different house?
Oh yeah, it was. We were all staying in the same. We would clear our personal belongings from whatever room we were sleeping in if we were going to shoot it for that day. Oh yeah. We would be cooking in the kitchen downstairs and then have to clear all of that out so we could shoot in the kitchen. It was fun.
That feels very method.
It was wild.
Or budget, but either one. So like
it was wild.
There's nothing in that fridge. So you guys just cleared out that fridge. What? Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, okay, we have 2 more minutes. Just one more quick question for you.
Go.
Do you want to be in another horror movie, and do you want to be a villain, or do you want to be like a heroic final girl character?
Oh, I will be in anything that anyone pays me to be in, is the short answer. But yeah, I love horror. I want to be in as much of it as possible. And whether that's being a badass final girl or, you know, the comic relief, or if I get to be the killer, I'm down for all of it. I would do any of it. I'll play all 3. Let's go.
Let's do it. Everybody put Misha Reeves in a movie where she plays all of the characters, a one person show.
That's all I ask.
It's possible. You can do it.
Yeah.
Well, Thank you so much for taking time to chat with me about Val.
Thank you.
You were incredible. So this has been very lovely. Yay.
You're the best.